There's a certain type of man that makes others uncomfortable. Not because he's aggressive, not because he's loud, not because he threatens anyone, but because he possesses something far more intimidating than physical strength or verbal dominance. He possesses control. Complete, absolute, unshakable control over himself. And that terrifies people. Society wants you weak, predictable, emotional, easy to manipulate, easy to control, easy to keep you in your place. But some men refuse to play that game. They're becoming something else, something dangerous. Not dangerous in the way most people think, not violent or reckless or unstable. Dangerous because they can't be controlled. Dangerous because they see through manipulation. Dangerous because they've mastered the one thing most men never will: themselves. And if you've been working on yourself, truly working, you might be becoming one of them without even realizing it. This is Behind the Mind, and today we're diving deep into dark psychology to reveal the 7 unmistakable signs that you're evolving into a dangerous man. These aren't surface-level traits. These are psychological signatures that separate the truly powerful from everyone else. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand, and if you're not there yet, you'll know exactly what you need to develop. Let's begin. The first sign you're becoming a dangerous man is this: people can no longer read you. Your emotions have become completely internal. You've developed what psychologists call emotional opacity, and it gives you an enormous advantage. Most men are open books. Their face reveals every thought. Their body language broadcasts every feeling. When they're angry, everyone knows. When they're hurt, it's obvious. When they're nervous, they telegraph it to the entire room. You're not like that anymore. The psychology of inscrutability. Dark psychology teaches us that information is power, and emotions are information. Every time you reveal how you feel, you're giving away power. You're showing people your buttons, your triggers, your weaknesses. A dangerous man has learned to process emotions internally without broadcasting them externally. He feels everything: anger, fear, excitement, disappointment, but his face reveals nothing. This isn't suppression, this is mastery. He's not denying his emotions, he's simply chosen to stop letting them control his external presentation. The strategic advantage. Think about poker. The best players have what they call a poker face, but that's just the beginning. A truly dangerous man has a poker face for life. In negotiations, he never shows eagerness. In conflicts, he never shows fear. In success, he doesn't gloat. In failure, he doesn't crumble. His emotional state is classified information, and he decides who gets access. This drives manipulators insane. They rely on reading emotional reactions to control people. When they can't read you, they can't manipulate you. They can't push your buttons because they don't know where your buttons are. The calibrated response. Here's what people don't understand. Emotional invisibility doesn't mean you don't respond. It means you respond strategically, not reflexively. When someone insults you, most men react immediately. Their face reddens, their voice rises, they become defensive or aggressive. You pause, you assess, you choose your response based on what serves you, not based on what you feel. This makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. The observation mode. When you're not broadcasting your emotions, you can observe others broadcasting theirs. You become the analyst while everyone else is the subject. You notice the micro-expressions that reveal true intentions. You catch the nervous tells that expose lies. You see through the social masks that others wear. While they're busy trying to figure you out, you've already mapped their entire psychological landscape. The cultivated mystery. People are naturally drawn to mystery. When you're emotionally invisible, you become inherently interesting. People want to understand you. They want to get close to you. They want to be the one who finally figures you out. This gives you social leverage. People invest more energy trying to understand mysterious individuals than transparent ones.
A dangerous man understands this and uses it, not manipulatively, but strategically. He knows that the less he reveals, the more valuable his attention becomes. Practical application. How do you develop this? Start with awareness. Notice every time your face reveals what you're thinking, every time your body language gives you away, every emotional leak. Then practice containment. Feel the emotion fully, acknowledge it internally, but keep your external presentation neutral. Start with small stakes, a frustrating email, a minor disappointment, and build from there. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your internal experience and external presentation become two separate things that you control independently. The power differential. Here's what makes this truly dangerous. While you've become unreadable, you've also become exceptional at reading others. You've created an information asymmetry. You know what they're feeling. They don't know what you're feeling. In any interaction, this puts you in the dominant position. Not because you're trying to dominate, but because you've mastered yourself while they haven't.
The second sign you're becoming a dangerous man. You've completely severed your need for external validation. And this might be the most powerful transformation of all. Most men are validation junkies. They need approval. They need recognition. They need likes, comments, compliments, acknowledgement. They need someone to tell them they're doing well, they're attractive, they're successful, they're worthy. This addiction controls their entire life. They choose careers based on what impresses others. They buy things to signal status. They fish for compliments. They get anxious when they don't receive praise. They measure their worth by external metrics. You don't do that anymore. The internal locus of evaluation. Psychologists distinguish between external and internal locus of evaluation. Most people have an external locus. They evaluate themselves based on what others think. A dangerous man has developed an internal locus. He evaluates himself based on his own standards. This is liberation. When you stop needing validation, people lose their leverage over you. They can't control you with approval or disapproval. They can't manipulate you with praise or criticism. You know your worth. You don't need anyone else to confirm it. The approval immunity. Watch what happens when someone tries to manipulate a dangerous man with validation. Wow, you're so smart. I bet you could help me with... It doesn't work. He sees through it immediately. Similarly, watch what happens when someone tries to manipulate him with disapproval. Everyone thinks you're wrong about this. He doesn't care. Their opinion has no bearing on his self-assessment. This approval immunity makes him nearly impossible to manipulate through social pressure. The quiet confidence. Men who need validation are loud about their accomplishments. They humble brag. They fish for acknowledgement. They make sure everyone knows what they've achieved. A dangerous man doesn't do this. He knows what he's accomplished. He doesn't need you to know it. If it comes up naturally, fine. If not, that's fine too. This quiet confidence is far more powerful than any amount of self-promotion. It signals genuine self-assurance rather than insecurity masked as confidence. The paradoxical effect. Here's the irony. When you stop seeking validation, you often receive more of it. People are drawn to those who don't need their approval. It's a fundamental principle of human psychology. The man desperately seeking validation repels it. The man completely indifferent to validation attracts it. But the dangerous man doesn't even notice this paradox because he genuinely doesn't care about the validation he's receiving. The decision freedom. When you don't need validation, you make completely different decisions. You start the business that interests you, not the one that impresses people. You pursue the relationship that fulfills you, not the one that looks good on social media. You live the life that aligns with your values, not the life that garners applause. This authenticity is rare and powerful. Most people are living performatively, constantly aware of their audience. You're just living. The criticism immunity. Criticism no longer lands, not because you're arrogant or close-minded, but because you've developed the ability to evaluate criticism objectively. Is it valid? Does it contain useful information?
Then you integrate it. Is it invalid? Is it projection or manipulation? Then you discard it. Either way, it doesn't affect your emotional state or self-worth. You've separated your identity from others' opinions. The social leverage shift. In any social hierarchy, the person who cares least has the most power. This is a fundamental truth of social dynamics. When you need validation from a group, that group controls you. When you're genuinely indifferent to their approval, you can't be controlled. This doesn't mean you're disrespectful or antisocial. It means you engage on your terms, not out of desperate need for acceptance. The test. Here's how you know you've achieved this. Imagine your biggest achievement goes completely unacknowledged. Nobody notices, nobody comments, nobody cares. If this genuinely doesn't bother you, not because you're suppressing the feeling, but because you truly don't need the external recognition, you've arrived. The third sign you're becoming a dangerous man, you've learned that silence is more powerful than speech, and you wield it like a weapon. Most men are uncomfortable with silence. They fill every gap with words. They explain, justify, defend, elaborate. They're so eager to be heard that they never stop talking long enough to listen or observe. You've learned the opposite. You've discovered that in most situations, saying less gives you more power. The information asymmetry. Every word you speak is information you're giving away. Every sentence reveals your thinking, your position, your intentions, your emotions. A dangerous man is stingy with his words. He speaks when it serves him, not when anxiety or social pressure demands it. This creates an information asymmetry. Others are revealing everything. You are revealing nothing. In any negotiation, any conflict, any competition, this is an enormous advantage. The discomfort weapon. Silence makes people uncomfortable. When you don't fill the silence, others feel compelled to fill it themselves, and when they do, they often reveal far more than they intended. In negotiations, the person who speaks first after a long silence usually loses ground. In conflicts, the person who can't handle silence usually makes concessions. In interrogations, silence is what breaks people. A dangerous man knows this and uses it. He creates silence strategically and watches people scramble to fill it with valuable information. The observational advantage. When you're not talking, you're observing, and observation is how you learn, how you strategize, how you understand people's true motivations. Most men miss everything because they're too busy talking. They don't notice the body language, they don't catch the contradictions, they don't see the patterns. You see all of it, because you're watching while they're performing. The selective speech. When you do speak, it carries weight. People who talk constantly are ignored. People who speak rarely are heard. A dangerous man has learned this. His words are measured. When he speaks, people listen because they know he doesn't waste breath on trivialities. This is respect earned through restraint. The mystery maintenance. We discussed this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing. Silence maintains mystery. The less you say about yourself, your plans, your thoughts, the more intriguing you become. Most men overshare. They broadcast their entire inner world on social media. They explain every decision. They justify every action. You don't. And this makes people lean in, pay attention, try to understand you. The emotional control signal. Silence under pressure is a signal of emotional control. When someone attacks you and you respond with calm silence instead of defensive reaction, you've demonstrated mastery. When someone tries to provoke you and you simply don't take the bait, you've shown that their words have no power over you. This is deeply unsettling to manipulators and deeply impressive to everyone else. The strategic revelation. A dangerous man doesn't never speak. He speaks strategically. He chooses what to reveal, when to reveal it, and to whom. He understands that information is currency. He doesn't give it away freely. He trades it for value. The listening mastery. Behind strategic silence is masterful listening. Not passive hearing, but active analytical listening. You're listening for what's being said and what's not being said. You're listening for emotional subtext. You're listening for contradictions, for patterns, for opportunities. Most men are just waiting for their turn to talk. You're actually processing information. The fourth sign you're becoming a dangerous man, you've developed what dark psychology calls selective empathy, and it might be the most controversial sign on this list. Most men operate at one extreme or the other. Either they're completely empathetic, feeling everyone's emotions, absorbing everyone's problems, being everyone's emotional support, or they're completely apathetic, disconnected from others entirely. You've found a third path, strategic empathy. You can turn it on and off at will. The empathy paradox. Here's what people don't understand. Being empathetic all the time makes you weak. You become everyone's dumping ground. You absorb their stress, their anxiety, their problems. You make yourself responsible for emotions that aren't yours. Conversely, being unempathetic makes you isolated and ineffective. You can't build relationships, can't lead people, can't understand what motivates others. A dangerous man has learned to deploy empathy selectively. With people he cares about, people who've earned it, people where it serves a purpose, he's deeply empathetic. With manipulators, energy vampires, people trying to exploit his kindness, he's a stone wall. The manipulation shield. Manipulators weaponize your empathy against you. They tell sob stories to guilt you into doing what they want. They create emotional urgencies to bypass your rational thinking. They exploit your caring nature to extract resources, time, energy, commitment. A dangerous man sees through this immediately. He's developed what psychologists call cognitive empathy. He understands what you're feeling without necessarily feeling it himself. He can recognize a manipulation attempt, acknowledge it intellectually, and remain completely unmoved emotionally. The boundary enforcement. Selective empathy allows for ruthless boundary enforcement. When someone violates your boundaries and then plays the victim, most empathetic men fold. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I should give them another chance. Not you. You can acknowledge their feelings without making them your responsibility. You can understand their perspective without changing your position. I understand you're upset that I won't lend you money again. That must be frustrating for you. Empathy delivered, boundary maintained, problem solved. The leadership advantage. Great leaders have selective empathy. They care deeply about their team, but don't let emotions override good decisions. They can fire someone who needs to be fired while understanding that it's difficult for that person. They can make hard calls that disappoint people while acknowledging the disappointment. Empathy without boundaries makes you a pushover. Boundaries without empathy makes you a tyrant. Selective empathy makes you a leader. The energy conservation. Empathy is expensive. It costs emotional energy. If you're empathetic with everyone all the time, you'll burn out. A dangerous man conserves his empathy for where it matters. His family, his close friends, his team, people who've earned access to his emotional investment. Random strangers trying to guilt trip him, coworkers trying to dump their problems on him, ex-partners trying to manipulate him, they get polite detachment, not empathy. The detachment skill. This is perhaps the most important psychological skill, the ability to care without being consumed, to understand without being absorbed, to help without being depleted. Most men either care too much and destroy themselves, or stop caring entirely and become isolated. A dangerous man has found the balance. He can witness suffering without making it his own. He can help when it's appropriate without making everyone's problems his responsibility. The emotional aikido. When someone tries to transfer their emotional chaos to you, a dangerous man practices emotional aikido. He doesn't absorb it or fight against it, he redirects it. That sounds really difficult. What are you planning to do about it? Empathy acknowledged, problem redirected back to its rightful owner. He's not cold, he's just not a dumping ground. The authentic connections. Here's the paradox. By being selectively empathetic rather than universally empathetic, you form deeper connections with the people who matter. When you're empathetic with everyone, your empathy becomes cheap. When you're empathetic only with people who've earned it, your empathy becomes valuable. The people in your inner circle know that when you care, you truly care. Because you're not performing empathy for social points, you're genuinely invested. The fifth sign you're becoming a dangerous man. You've developed an instinctive understanding of power dynamics in every interaction, and you never find yourself in the subordinate position by accident. Most men are completely blind to power dynamics. They don't realize that every conversation, every relationship, every interaction has a power structure. Someone is leading, someone is following. Someone is framing reality, someone is accepting that frame. You see it all, instantly, automatically. The frame recognition. Frame is a concept from psychology and pickup artistry that's actually universally applicable. The frame is the lens through which an interaction is interpreted. Whose frame wins determines who has the power. Example, your boss says, "I need you to work this weekend." Weak men accept this frame. The boss has needs and they must fulfill them. A dangerous man might reframe. "I appreciate you thinking of me for this. My weekend rate is triple my normal rate. Should I send you the invoice Monday?" Same situation, different frame, power shifted. The hierarchy awareness. Every group has a hierarchy. Sometimes it's formal, sometimes it's subtle, but it always exists. A dangerous man immediately identifies where he sits in any hierarchy, and more importantly, understands the power dynamics that created that hierarchy. He knows who has real power versus who has titles. He knows who influences decisions versus who makes announcements. He knows who people actually respect versus who people publicly acknowledge. This awareness allows him to navigate any social structure effectively. The status games. People play status games constantly. They try to subtly one-up each other. They jockey for position. They signal superiority through language, body language, positioning. Most men participate unconsciously, reacting emotionally when their status is challenged. A dangerous man sees the game clearly. He can choose to play or not play. He can elevate or deflate his status strategically. He's not emotionally invested in the outcome. He's just aware of the dynamics. The compliance testing. People test your compliance constantly. Small requests to see if you'll say yes, boundary pushes to see if you'll enforce limits, disrespect to see if you'll tolerate it. Most men fail these tests without realizing they're being tested. A dangerous man recognizes compliance tests immediately and responds strategically. Sometimes he complies when it serves him, often he doesn't, and the way he declines sends a clear message about his boundaries. The power moves. You've learned to recognize power moves. The person who sits first, the person who speaks first, the person who ends the meeting, the person who decides what's discussed. More importantly, you've learned to execute your own power moves so smoothly that others don't realize what's happening. You're the one suggesting where to meet. Now it's on your territory. You're the one setting the agenda. Now it's your priorities being discussed. You're the one creating the deadline. Now you control the timeline. The submission signals. You no longer send unconscious submission signals. No excessive apologizing, no unnecessary explanation, no defensive body language, no seeking permission for things that don't require permission. Your communication is direct and unapologetic. Your body language is open and relaxed. Your eye contact is steady. Your voice is calm and authoritative. These aren't performances, they're natural expressions of someone who knows his value and doesn't need to prove it. The leverage understanding. In any negotiation, any conflict, any competition, leverage is everything. A dangerous man automatically assesses who has what leverage. What do I have that they want? What do they have that I want? Who needs this outcome more? This assessment happens in seconds and determines his entire strategy. He never enters a power dynamic without understanding his leverage or creating leverage where none exists. The strategic positioning. You've learned to position yourself advantageously in every situation, not manipulatively, but strategically. You're building relationships with people above you in various hierarchies. You're creating multiple options so you're never dependent on any single outcome. You're developing skills that make you valuable and difficult to replace. You're playing chess while most men are playing checkers.
The sixth sign you're becoming a dangerous man, you've completely mastered delayed gratification. And this might be the single most predictive trait of future success. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment showed that children who could delay gratification achieved more success in virtually every life domain. The same principle applies to men, but the stakes are higher. Most men can't delay anything. They want the pleasure now, the success now, the recognition now. They take the immediate reward every single time, and it keeps them permanently mediocre. You've learned to play the long game. The impulse immunity. Modern society is designed to exploit impulsive behavior. Buy now, eat now, watch now, swipe now. Every message is engineered to trigger immediate action. Most men are puppets on these strings. They see something they want, they get it. They feel an urge, they satisfy it. They lack the ability to create space between desire and action. A dangerous man has developed impulse immunity. He feels the desire for food, for sex, for purchases, for validation, and he can simply wait, sometimes indefinitely. This is power, real, genuine power over yourself. The investment mindset. Where most men consume, you invest. Where they spend money to feel good now, you invest money to be wealthy later. Where they waste time on entertainment, you invest time in skills. Where they seek immediate pleasure, you pursue long-term fulfillment. Every decision is filtered through the question, does this serve my future self or my present self? And increasingly, you choose your future self. The compound understanding. You've internalized what few men ever understand. Small, consistent actions compound into massive results over time. Going to the gym once doesn't matter. Going consistently for 5 years transforms your life. Reading one book does nothing. Reading consistently for a decade makes you formidable. Saving $100 once is trivial. Saving consistently with compound interest makes you wealthy. Most men don't have the patience for compound growth. They want the transformation now. They quit when they don't see immediate results. You understand that the most powerful results take time, and you're willing to wait. The dopamine management. Every cheap pleasure, junk food, pornography, social media, video games, provides an immediate dopamine hit. This trains your brain to expect instant gratification. A dangerous man has restructured his dopamine system. He's learned to get dopamine from achievement, from progress, from discipline itself. This makes him nearly immune to cheap pleasures. They don't tempt him because they can't compete with the satisfaction he gets from his long-term pursuits. The temptation resistance. Life constantly offers you trades, short-term pleasure for long-term pain, or short-term discipline for long-term reward. The drunk night out versus the productive morning, the junk food versus the healthy body, the impulsive purchase versus the investment account, the casual relationship versus waiting for the right partner. Most men take the short-term option reflexively. You've trained yourself to pause, evaluate, and usually choose the option that serves your future. The strategic suffering. You've learned to embrace strategic suffering, doing hard things now to make life easier later. The brutal workout, the difficult conversation, the boring but necessary work, the social event you skip to focus on your goals, the pleasure you deny yourself to maintain discipline. This isn't masochism, it's investment. You're suffering strategically in small doses to avoid suffering catastrophically later. The patience paradox. Here's the irony. The more capable you are of delaying gratification, the less you need to delay it. Your disciplined choices compound into a life where you can actually afford the things you want. But by the time you can afford them, you often don't want them anymore. Your desires have evolved along with your discipline. The status signal. Delayed gratification is a powerful status signal. Expensive watches, maintained physiques, extensive knowledge, these all require prolonged discipline. When people recognize these markers, they understand that they're dealing with someone capable of long-term thinking, someone who can't be manipulated with short-term rewards, someone dangerous. The seventh and final sign you're becoming a dangerous man, you're no longer afraid of conflict. In fact, you've become comfortable, even skilled at navigating confrontation. Most men avoid conflict at all costs. They say yes when they mean no. They tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. They let boundaries be violated because confrontation makes them uncomfortable. This conflict avoidance makes them easy targets, easy to manipulate, easy to exploit, easy to disrespect. You're not like that anymore. The necessary confrontation. You've learned that some conflict is not only inevitable, but necessary. Necessary to enforce boundaries, necessary to maintain respect, necessary to protect what matters. When someone crosses a line, you don't ignore it, hoping it won't happen again. You address it immediately and directly, not aggressively, but firmly. This nips problems in the bud. Where conflict-avoidant men accumulate resentment until they explode, you handle issues as they arise and move on. The frame control in conflict. Most men lose their composure in conflict. They become emotional, reactive, defensive. They raise their voice. They make it personal. They lose control of the frame. A dangerous man maintains frame even under pressure. His voice stays calm. His logic stays sharp. His emotions stay internal. He's addressing the issue, not having an emotional breakdown. This composure is deeply unsettling to aggressive people. They're trying to provoke a reaction, and you're not giving them one. This often causes them to escalate until they look unreasonable while you look controlled. The strategic aggression. You've learned that sometimes strategic aggression is the appropriate response, not uncontrolled anger, but calculated assertiveness. When someone consistently disrespects you, sometimes you need to show teeth. Not violence, not threats, but clear, unmistakable assertion of dominance. This is the last time we're having this conversation. If it happens again, there will be consequences. Delivered calmly, but with absolute conviction. This isn't being a bully. This is being someone who refuses to be bullied. The walk-away power. Perhaps the most dangerous trait, you're completely willing to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. Relationships, jobs, friendships, opportunities. This walk-away power is the ultimate leverage. When people know you're willing to leave, they can't control you with the threat of abandonment. Most men stay in situations they hate because they're afraid to lose what they have. You understand that walking away from what's wrong is how you find what's right. The respectful aggression. Here's the nuance. You can be aggressive without being disrespectful. You can confront without attacking. You can be firm without being cruel. A dangerous man addresses behavior, not character. He describes consequences, not insults. He maintains his own dignity while challenging the other person. This makes him difficult to paint as the villain because his confrontation is justified and measured. The conflict confidence. You no longer avoid conflict because you've become confident in your ability to handle it. You've been in enough confrontations to know you can handle them. This confidence changes your entire demeanor. You don't walk around anxious about potential conflict. You don't obsess over what you should have said. You don't replay arguments in your head. You know that if conflict arises, you'll handle it. This creates a relaxed confidence that people pick up on. The de-escalation skills. Being comfortable with conflict doesn't mean seeking it. A truly dangerous man has also mastered de-escalation. He can recognize when someone is looking for a fight and refuse to give it to them. He can absorb an insult without reacting. He can let someone save face while still maintaining his position. He's comfortable with conflict, but wise enough to avoid it when there's nothing to gain. The reputation effect. Once people know you're comfortable with conflict, they're less likely to start it with you. Your reputation precedes you. He's not someone to mess with, not because you're violent or aggressive, but because you'll address disrespect immediately and effectively. This reputation creates a protective barrier. Most people would rather avoid the confrontation entirely than deal with someone who handles it so well.
So let's integrate these 7 signs if you're becoming a dangerous man. 1. You've mastered emotional invisibility. People can't read you, but you can read them. 2. You no longer seek validation. Your worth is internally defined and externally irrelevant. 3. Your silence has become strategic. You speak when it serves you, not when anxiety demands it. 4. You've developed selective empathy. You care deeply where it matters, remain detached where it doesn't. 5. You understand power dynamics instinctively. You're never in the subordinate position by accident. 6. You'd mastered delayed gratification. You play long games while others chase short-term rewards. 7. You've become comfortable with conflict. You enforce boundaries and maintain respect without fear. The dangerous definition. Let's be clear about what dangerous means in this context. It doesn't mean violent, it doesn't mean cruel, it doesn't mean unethical or manipulative. It means you can't be controlled. You can't be manipulated. You can't be exploited. You can't be intimidated. You can't be broken. It means you're a free agent in a world full of puppets, and that freedom is what makes people uncomfortable. The responsibility. With this power comes responsibility. You could use these traits to manipulate and exploit others. That's the dark side of dark psychology. But a truly dangerous man doesn't need to exploit anyone. He's built genuine power, power over himself, and that's all the power he needs. He uses these traits for protection, not predation, for strength, not cruelty, for freedom, not domination. The continued evolution. These 7 signs aren't a destination. They're indicators of a journey. You'll have days where you embody all of them. You'll have days where you embody none of them. What matters is the trajectory. Are you more emotionally controlled than you were last year, more independent of validation, more strategic in your silence? If yes, you're on the path. The social impact. People will notice. Some will be attracted to your strength. They'll want to be around you, learn from you, align with you. Others will be threatened. They'll call you cold, calculating, changed. They'll accuse you of being manipulative or narcissistic or heartless. Let them. Their discomfort is a signal that you're doing something right. Weak people are always uncomfortable around strength. The warning. Not everyone should pursue this path. It requires accepting certain truths about human nature that most people prefer to ignore. It requires developing traits that society often demonizes in men. It will make you different, isolated sometimes, misunderstood often. But it will also make you free. And for some men, freedom is worth any price. The question. So here's the question you need to answer. How many of these 7 signs do you genuinely embody? Be honest, not aspirationally honest, actually honest. If you embody all 7 consistently, you're already dangerous. If you embody some, you're becoming dangerous. If you embody none, you have work to do. The path forward. If you're not where you want to be, good news. All 7 of these traits can be developed. They're skills, not gifts. Emotional invisibility comes from practice and awareness. Freedom from validation comes from building genuine self-worth. Strategic silence comes from discipline. Selective empathy comes from setting boundaries. Understanding power dynamics comes from study and observation. Delayed gratification comes from consistent choice. Comfort with conflict comes from exposure and experience. All learnable, all achievable, all within your control. The timeline. Don't expect overnight transformation. Becoming truly dangerous takes years of consistent work. It's a complete reconstruction of your psychological operating system. But every day you work on it, you become a little more free, a little more powerful, a little more dangerous. And the man you'll become is worth the effort. The final truth. The world needs dangerous men, not violent men, not cruel men, dangerous men. Men who can't be controlled, men who set their own course, men who protect what matters without seeking permission. Society will try to domesticate you, to make you safe, predictable, manageable, to convince you that ambition is toxic, that strength is problematic, that self-mastery is somehow selfish. Ignore it all. Build yourself into someone formidable, someone who makes weak people uncomfortable simply by existing, someone who operates by his own rules while respecting the rights of others. Become dangerous, become free, become untouchable. Call to action. This is Behind the Mind. If these 7 signs resonated with you, if they revealed something about yourself, either where you are or where you need to be, smash that like button. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into dark psychology, power dynamics, and the truths about human nature that most channels won't touch. And drop a comment telling me which of these 7 signs do you genuinely embody? Which one are you working on developing? Be honest with yourself and with the community. Let's build a tribe of dangerous men who refuse to be controlled, manipulated, or domesticated. Men who understand power, wield it responsibly, and live completely free.